So good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, July 13th, 2020. The time is 11:02 a.m. We're meeting for our weekly Commissioner Status Update. Attending Commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Fillios. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none. First item, fees for adult misdemeanor probation. Our Director, Keith.
Red mean on? Red means on?
Yes,
Okay.
should be good.
I didn't know. Usually it's green light go.
You could just tilt it up a little.
yes.
There you go.
Hey, good evening, good afternoon, morning to everybody. It
Sometime
all runs together for me. I don't know what time it is.
You're beyond space and time is what you're telling us. Never mind.
It's 24/7. What in front of you is what I wanted to bring in front of you before I started bringing resolutions to you and everything else is just a status to talk to you guys about certain some aspects.
Absolutely.
Well, we had a resolution back in 2012 and it set the fees for probation. And it's really confusing, and we're at 50 cents, charging people 50 cents, which becomes a pain in the rear end of keeping change and everything else on the thing. Well, also with the change of times and testing and what's available out there, like our UA cups, there's only 6-panel UA cups right now. But we're having to take the tops off, dip them in for urine, dip them in for fentanyl, dip them in for spice. It's becoming just basically a biohazard. I've had to replace several pieces of clothing because, oops, the urine fell on somebody. You can't have them.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
So long story short, I'm trying to go to a 16-panel, which covers all this. Also, does each additional test cost more? Then they only have a shelf life. We go through our UA cups a lot faster and a lot quicker. So financially, it's smarter for us just to make a 16-panel change. So we're going to be moving our fee from $5 to $10. Then I looked at the whole time, and I was like, well, we're looking at all the fees. We're just time and change. The only thing that went back a little bit was the GPS bracelet. It went from $15 a day to $10 a day. We're not putting too many people on the GPS bracelet right now. And the $15 charge was us monitoring it and everything else. We just get alerts, and I think it's personally, undue just to the person that's on the GPS that I think we're ripping them off to charge them almost 3 times the cost of what it's being actually given to them. So I don't think that's right. So that's why I was just trying to make a blanket statement of everything be $10. It seems like everybody could remember what it is. The revenue generation is going to be probably, I would say, between $3,000 to $4,000 towards the county with the change, because most of our people are on Scram or the UA cups. And we get a lot of requests from the courts to do UA tests constantly during sentencing and things like that. So the state has to come back. And
For the benefit of everyone, what is UA?
a urinalysis test.
Okay.
I want to know what SCRAM is.
Scram is what they do is the alcohol monitor bracelet.
What's it stand for, though?
I forgot the name of it off the top of my head.
You can email me later.
Yeah.
Secure continuous.
Alcohol monitoring is alcohol monitoring. That's it. Yeah.
Remote
monitoring.
alcohol
That's it. I
monitoring?
just,
Okay.
It's
sorry.
okay.
I just get in the habit of saying it. Yep,
Okay.
Scram. So that's what where we make a lot of the money is between those two functions. Also, what happens is we get a ton of appointments where they're not showing up, and that's costing a lot of money on the taxpayers and everything else. So I want to move the fee from $10, missed appointment to $25. I want to make it substantial to where they don't miss appointments, because that's the optimal goal, is to get them to not miss appointments. Then we have to turn back around and go back out and do a home visit, the cost of that. So that's why we're looking at the $25. Those are the only thing I was requesting to start to go to the public with and request a change in the fees. Any questions?
No. What's the next step? Do we need a public hearing for this?
Yes, I'll ship it up to Terry.
Okay.
Terry, have her run it through legal, the legal side of it, saying, hey, you guys are on stand with it.
Okay.
We'll get it published, do our 2 publishings, and then I'll come back to you guys with a new resolution.
Understood. Questions for Keith?
No.
None. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Sorry, but I know that Scram threw me off.
Not intentionally. No. Just want to know.
Bring us some more acronyms, would you?
I'll have them.
Okay. All right, second item on the agenda, all Board of County Commissioners liaisons. Bill, why don't you lead us off with this?
Yeah, I just it's funny because the liaison, the county commissioner's liaison with a particular department is probably one of the quietest thing that goes on in the county. But it's also, in my opinion, one of the most important. It's about communication. We're not the boss of that department, no matter how big or how small, but we're the conduit, if you will, for that department to communicate with the board and for the board to communicate with the department. And I would like to see some sort of a informal or formal policy regarding how we're handling liaison positions. And also, I would like to see maybe a renewed look at who's liaisoning with which departments, and have that be open and above board.
Okay. We've pretty much, for the most part, kept the liaison assignments, if I can call them that, that we designated, if you will, and approved as a group at the beginning of the year, this board cycle, which was a year and a half ago. We've had a couple changes since, juvenile detention and probation from me to Leslie. Leslie requested it. I spoke with both Deb and JT. They were fine with it, and so we made the change. And it was really consistent with the activity that you were doing with district court and whatnot. That's probably the only one that I'm aware of. Other than that, we've pretty much stayed static from, what we've had for the past year and a half. There was a recent one with district court. Did you want to comment on that, Bill?
Well, I think Leslie's been performing the activity and doing an adequate job of liaisoning with them. I have no problem if she wants to formally take that over. I have a problem with just all of a sudden seeing it on the consent agenda. I would rather, just like you said, that you had a discussion with Leslie. I would rather do the same thing, and I'd be fine with it.
Okay, are you
that-
all right if I take over district court judge?
Absolutely. And in the future to do the same.
Okay. Anything else? And normally, when we discuss these assignments, we typically do them at the start of the calendar year. We didn't do it this year because everything was pretty much fine, and unless a particular commissioner really wants to make any changes, we typically, leave them as is. And in most cases, it's a question of compatibility, backgrounds match, things of that nature. So I think for the most part, until January, I think we're okay for now. Are you fine, Leslie?
Yeah.
Bill?
Good.
Okay. Item number 3, Chairmanship of the Board of County Commissioners. I'm done. Go ahead, Bill.
This is another one of those very tricky kind of things that we don't have a policy for. And I don't think we need a policy, but we need a mutual understanding in terms of what whoever it is, what their role is. We are in fact, period, 3 co-equals, or tri-equals, if you will. Chris is the chair right now, this minute. Getting nervous?
No, not at all.
No, not at all.
Want to take a load off me? That's fine.
No, I don't. You mentioned that once before, and I told you, hell no. I would like to, me too, I would like us all to go through the chair, which I think is appropriate when we're sitting as the Board of Commissioners. It's a slight change, but it gives the chair more ability to direct the meeting. And I'm happy with how it's going. I think I could be happier.
Okay, so I guess I need some clarification. What do you mean by go through the chair?
Well, you look at the Coeur d'Alene City Council meetings. Anytime any of the council people want to speak, they always ask the chair if they may speak, and then they go ahead. It's always directed by the chair. He's kind of like the conductor. In this case, he'd be the conductor of the Board of Commissioners while we're sitting. It doesn't take away anything from any of our rights to issue a press release or do anything else individually. But I guess I want a stronger chair. That's my harshest criticism. That's my harshest criticism, Chris.
Okay.
You do a great job.
You want to comment?
What are your thoughts?
Okay. My style is very casual and very participatory. I'm not very formal. So if one of you wishes to speak during the meeting, speak. I do take a more, how do I put it, disciplined stand, obviously, with participants in the audience because we have to maintain order. I see where Bill is coming from because, how do I put this? Okay, so for example, when I was on the board of Eastside Highway District, whenever, and this was never really formalized, but whenever anybody wanted to speak, they'd say, Mr. Chairman, and the chairman would acknowledge. I'm more casual than that, and again, back to Bill's earlier point, we're co-equals. The only difference in my job is to try to keep order and manage the process. But I see where Bill's coming from, because what he's saying is, two or more people might want to speak at the same time. Typically, for the sake of order, people will say, Mr. Chairman, and you're acknowledged, and you speak. I don't know. I can go either way. How do you feel?
I think it's been going fine the way it's been going. I mean, you're normally pretty good about saying, okay, you hold on, you go. I mean, I haven't seen any issue with it. I kind of like how it's a conversation that happens.
I've had people actually ask me, who is chair of the commission? Who's in charge up there? And it's obviously not me because I'm usually quiet about things.
Okay. I can handle the criticism.
And it's not, if that's the worst criticism.
No, you're right. Go ahead. It's interesting because throughout my career, and this is obviously before I got into real estate and working in tech and working with people, professionals, people, some with PhDs and whatnot, I grew up in an industry that was very, for lack of a better word, egalitarian. I mean, if you were the last person in and you were the CEO and you had to park in the back of the lot, you walked. And that's the environment that I grew up in. So I only assert myself when it comes down to that. And I've had occasion where I've had to do that with not my co-commissioners, but people in the audience. So I think if someone has a problem with my style, I can deal with it. I understand where Bill's coming from for the sake of order. But I think when it comes to we as commissioners, I try to acknowledge both of you and say comment. So if you want to ask me and say, Mr. Chairman, I'll certainly acknowledge you. If not, and if it's a problem, I'll jump in. I'll say, sorry, you got to stop there. But not everyone's going to approve of my style, and I can deal with it.
And I think that's okay. I think it's good to have that understanding and occasionally have that conversation just to see where we're at, so we keep on track.
Either way.
That's all I have to say.
Okay. All right. You okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good.
State of the county planning. Oh, me? Okay.
And you're recognized. Go ahead.
And actually, before we move on to this, I can almost understand the comments because, for example, one of our more recent hearings, especially on the Intermax situation, we had folks online, and truthfully, Leslie helps out here because if I have people here and people there, and I'm trying to shuffle between the, sorry, it's okay. Shuffle between the two, it gets a little chaotic. So, and the last speaker that we had just wouldn't stop. So it was a question of, do we just ask her to stop or do we just cut her off?
You did ask her to stop
Yeah, we
several
did.
times.
Yeah, we did. You're right. And we probably should have cut her off. But anyway, but that happens. That's unusual, but we are operating under unusual circumstances too, because we've never really had to function this way. Now, if you go back to the public hearing that we had on the river, on the waterways, which was the first of its type of that magnitude with Zoom and people on conference calls, even the people themselves said, boy, that was beautifully done, you know, and it's also helped, thanks, by the way, in large part to David Callahan, and of course now he's able to use that model for community development. So it really depends on the nature of the meeting and whatnot, but I do understand and I can see where sometimes where folks are coming from. Anyway, let's move on. State of the county. Nancy, what's the date? Is it the 25th or the 26th of August?
25th is State of the County, 26th is the budget hearing.
Okay. And is this breakfast at the resort?
Breakfast at the inn.
Coeur
Lane
d'Alene.
Inn, okay. All right, got it. So the three of us will be speaking in addition to Nancy Pluff, and are you going to speak briefly? You're going to do any intros or whatever?
I will do what the board tells me to do.
Okay. I think I'm going to take the lead here. I, for one, prefer PowerPoint because I think it's easier for the people to follow it. And I think, honestly, it's more professional. And it's something I think they're accustomed to based on what the city does and other jurisdictions. So how do you guys feel? Do you want to speak to it, or would you rather?
I liked last year personally. Sorry, Bill, I didn't mean to
Go
cut you
ahead.
off.
Go ahead,
Yeah, and I mean, we got a lot of positive feedback. They said it was the best one in several years, and I kind of liked how it worked. We just kind of sat up there and went back and
We
forth.
didn't do a PowerPoint last year?
I think Nancy Pluff
Nancy,
did.
oh,
yeah,
Nancy did. You did. We didn't.
right.
Bill?
I think this is where the political part of being a commissioner comes out in front of the community. You have been elected to represent a particular opinion and not just show a PowerPoint or go through an outline. To speak to people about what you see as a vision for the county, how we're doing, and where we need to go and where we've been. And that doesn't fit neatly into being dissected into three parts. But I think that's very important that you speak to, this is an important group, and they get an understanding of where each individual is coming from. I think that's very important. I mean, otherwise, just saying Nancy and Nancy, and we can sit back and have a breakfast. You like that idea? No.
Thoughts?
That's it. Just same as last year worked. Had a little bit of both. Now, if you wanted a PowerPoint for what you're saying, I mean, I think that would work out just fine too.
Yeah, and I don't need a PowerPoint.
I don't either. Yeah.
Nancy, you want to jump in here? How do you feel?
I actually did a lot of research on this when we were looking at doing it last time. A lot of arguments for and against. If you're going to use them, I think they have to be simple.
Oh, clearly.
All of that. But I do think it is kind of a standard. It is something, looking back, all of the other municipalities did do one. And I can tell you that when they reached out this year for us to do another one, the comment that was made was, well, that lady that did it last year with all of the website stuff, is she gonna come speak again this year? And and the commissioners. So I mean, that obviously, I think, left an impact, the graphs and all of that. I do think there was some interest there. So I think it can be used kind of sparingly to really hit the highlights of certain things. It doesn't have to be a deep dive on anything. I would like to, if we could, kind of talk a little bit about the topics. I've had a couple of electeds reach out to ask how much participation or if they can provide information. So getting an idea of what you're all looking to speak at would be helpful as we do start to plan.
Yeah, Nancy, go ahead.
I was going to say it might be helpful to have a PowerPoint because I think it would be great to honor Rich and also
How many minutes do we have? And we keep throwing PowerPoints up there, and we're all gonna be,
It's about 45 minutes.
and how long do these additional PowerPoints take? I mean, this is prime time.
They could be 5 minutes.
Yeah, I just,
How much time do you need?
However much you want to give me. I
What-
can make it fit and show them pieces to fit whatever time frame is there.
See, I'm thinking your piece, because it's the most substantive, probably should be the longest. When I say the longest, maybe 15. If we've got 45 minutes and we each take 10, that's 30, Nancy gets 15. Or maybe we go 50 minutes if you want to take 3 or 5 for intros, that's entirely up to you. But if Nancy's going to do a PowerPoint, which you will, right? Because you're going to be depicting the graphs.
Probably more website stuff.
Well, that's fine, either way, I'm sorry, but what I mean is a formal presentation, then maybe it's not as crucial for us three.
Crucial for us three to have a
To have a
PowerPoint.
formal
Right.
screen pitch, yeah.
Agree.
It's completely at your direction.
The only thing is, I think somebody made an interesting, was it you, Nancy, about introducing Bela? And the thing for Rich, I mean, we could probably do that. And for the thing is this, I think we need some measure of consistency. So if two of us are not going to do it and I'm going to do it, we have an inconsistency. Is that a problem? Speak up,
no, I don't think,
throwing it out for
I don't think that's a problem at all.
I mean,
No, I don't either.
in between, so let's say you're the first speaker.
Okay,
When you're done, we can have it move over to the county seal while there are other speakers. If you're talking about parks and waterways and you want to put up just a graphic of the lake or something like that, we can do something simple like that, just so that it's not a blank screen.
that's fine.
If we used all the information, really good information that's up on the county website, we could be there for a whole morning. We could, easily. It's that good. And it's current, and it's important. But I've been on the receiving end of these things, and I want to know your broad general vision for where we are and where we're going. That's what I want to know, not be overwhelmed with graphs and pie charts and, pretty soon it's just like, yeah, now what are you going to do with all that information you've got? And the people in the audience aren't going to do anything with it. You can tell them that we've taken a major step in terms of this wake boat, water, safety on the Spokane River, on the lakes. This is important, and you don't need pie charts and graphs to show that. We've taken a major step. Big thing. We've taken a major step on the budget in very trying times. And I want people to go away knowing that. But I don't need to show them the growth or shrinkage in the XYZ department. That's not important to them. We made a major step. We're at, if it continues to be, 0% tax increase, 0% in times when we're undergoing explosive growth. And I won't use the bad word exponential because it doesn't fit. It's explosive growth, and we can't stop it, but we can plan for it. Here's what we mean by planning, and that does not to say that we're going to be following the Agenda 21 or 2030 or whatever. We have a planning department that helps us place like with like, and things that are compatible with things are compatible.
So back to format then, what we can do is, and I think Nancy touched on it, just leave it flexible, okay? So I think what I'm hearing is, if I were to go first, I could do something with just a few overheads, whatever that is, and you, Nancy, and I can confer on that. And then Leslie and Bill, and like, for example, the situation, or the example that Bill brought up with waterways, that would probably, because that's really your
Leslie.
your baby. So essentially, you could speak to that. I don't think you need overheads for anything like that.
No, I was just going to touch on all my liaisons.
There you
just
go.
the highlights of each department and each elected official. And last year, I also got with them too, to see if there's anything specific they wanted to do. And then I think that we definitely need to highlight the tax situation. So if Bill wants to handle this year's budget, or the other thing that I really think we need to do is talk about the governor's property tax rebate.
Yes.
So if somebody wants to do that, I just want to make sure those two items are covered. And then that's about it. That's all I was thinking.
Waterways, budget, yeah. Keith, please, you want to,
I think one thing you should really cover is affected all of us, COVID-19.
well, yeah,
Where are we going?
that's going to be, yeah,
Financially,
that's
how
going to,
it
that's going to
affected
weave
us and
throughout.
stuff like that.
Sure.
Just where we're going with that, like the same future.
But I think Leslie's point, yeah.
Yeah.
And I can probably touch on that up front, but that's going to weave throughout. But I think Leslie's point is valid. The logical place for us to start is each of us with the groups that we liaison with. So, Bill, you might be commenting on KCSO. And I don't know that we need to hit every specific segment, but at least the key ones.
15 or 20 seconds,
Right.
KCSO, the airport, this, that. Just, I'm not trying to do the deep dive. This is really not the 30,000-foot view. This is the 60,000-foot view.
Well, solid waste in particular, I mean, there's a
Yeah,
lot to
there
be
you
proud
go.
of with them, and
Absolutely.
everybody else is doing this, and they're
Right.
doing.
And they're doing that's
And
exactly right.
I think we all have a right to be very proud of what they've been able to accomplish.
Yeah, and they've had actually explosive growth.
Oh, yeah.
Despite the downturn in the economy. Okay, so basically, just a quick recap. If we're looking at 45 minutes, maybe it's 50 minutes, because I guess we're going to have to allow some time for Q&A. So Nancy, if you do the intros, I'll go first. And again, I think we'll pretty much limit it to the groups we liaison with. I'll just maybe hit a couple of highlights that span the three of us, if you will, probably COVID, because that's affecting every one of us. And then we'll go perhaps Leslie and then Bill. However, each of us taking probably no more than 10 minutes, maybe it's a little bit less. So Nancy Pluff gets 15 minutes in the end to run through the indicators. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything further on that? Okay. Budget is, I should probably do that because it's going to cut across the three of us.
And it'll have to do with the governors.
And it's going to have to do with the governors as well. I can do that up front. And we can still work out some of these and then mention, as Leslie pointed out, the governor's proposal. And then from there, we'll just get into the individual liaisons and how they might be affected, or not, as the case may be. And by then, well, we'll certainly know what we're doing, won't we? Yeah, please, Dina. Yes, please. You bet. Okay, anything else on that? Okay. Final item, pending item status review
I think this is going to go fairly quickly
for the
today.
attached list, okay. Romer House, that's all three of us. Sean, would you like to come forward? I have to say, when you write Julianne, you're pretty direct.
Well, somebody needs to be.
That's the way I am. I mean, I'm not going to beat around the bush. So I don't have much. I've asked her for her proof of insurance and
Yes.
made sure that she understands every time they want to meet, they have to fill out the agreement. So I haven't heard any more. I asked them if they wanted the tape down, if they would provide the signs, and I don't have signs either. So
Okay,
I don't have much more than that.
What is the date? We gave them another 90 days.
I think the board said it was until
you
the
said
end of September.
30th, I thought.
Okay, yeah. Well,
Is that right?
and I think we need to make it clear to them that we're going to be taking some action.
Well, I think she knows that,
Well,
yeah, that it's
this
gonna
is
be
it. This is it. I have moved to extend that thing, I think, twice.
Twice.
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to it, but we're not gonna be, what's a polite word for fiddle farting? I mean, I feel that's what we're doing with this thing, is a little this, a little this, a little this, but we're not getting down to the hardcore, do you have sponsors? Last thing I read, they actually have listed potential donors. And these people didn't even know it.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
And, well,
I
a
didn't
couple
see
of them,
that one.
and they didn't approve it, and
Yeah,
they
they
don't
might,
approve
they might
it.
not have approached them yet, yeah.
Yeah, and that's just not okay.
And looking at the last email, it sounded like that they haven't raised much more money than they did 4 months ago. It sounds like the COVID and cancellations and stuff like that are canceling them. And then it,
We've
you
had
know,
interruptions.
the other thing that I think I was talking to Leslie about a little while ago was, you know, if they've raised $4,000 and the liability insurance is clearly stated in the second page of what they have to purchase, that's gonna cost them a couple grand just to
Right
get
there,
the
right
insurance,
there.
right up front. So I would just, you know, as it goes on, we'll just continue to visit
Yeah,
with whatever.
absolutely.
But I think that it would be a good idea, maybe right after Labor Day, to bring them in and say, okay, we need to know where you're at. Because if it's the board's decision to go in a different direction, I really don't see the need for that building to be up for another winter. I just don't.
I don't at all, and what I'm saying is, I don't think we can, on the 30th of September, say, take it down the next day. It's not that simple.
No.
No, no,
and-
no, no.
And that would be one of the topics of that meeting, would be for the board to say, this doesn't look like it's gonna happen. So, you know, Sean, do you wanna start reaching out to see if
That's
the
what I mean.
quote is right? And can you schedule this if this has to happen? How much notice do you need?
Right, and I have a question.
Well, go ahead.
When you knock that building down, and I went over the property condition report again today, and it's not encouraging. But when you take that building apart, it has to be taken away,
Yes,
correct? And what you're gonna end up with is a hole.
yes.
Do you have to fill that hole right away?
No.
You do
You can put a fence up.
You put
What I would
secure
recommend.
fencing around it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
secure.
what I would recommend is a cyclone fence and just put it up around the hole. Chain it up and
I'm just wondering,
you'll be good to go.
but you need some lead time to get that done.
The
Yeah,
thing
so I'd
though,
have to coordinate the fencing and the excavation and all that stuff. Couple
okay, so
trees
what,
need to
what
be
we also
removed.
have to acknowledge is that I think we talked about or decided that we were going to offer it for sale around that time. Is that correct?
In my mind, if the conservatory is not going to be in line to purchase, it's off the market. That's,
It's off the market.
yes, I only intended, and I apologize if I hadn't made this more clear, but if the conservatory is not going to purchase it, then I don't want it for sale. I want it to be
Demolished.
kept demolished and
Oh.
parking lot or something.
Haven't we offered it for sale before?
Yes.
Nah,
You're gonna find it,
not formally.
Not the building,
formally.
just the house, not the building,
not the property,
Okay.
but yes, that, we couldn't give the house away for $1. I mean,
But my concern is if you just offer it on the market, then you don't know who your neighbor's going to be. And if it's going to be, you know, a 4-story, you know, apartment complex, it just starts to get involved.
Oh, no, I get that. But the thing is, we talked about the restrictive,
Yes, but we would use the deed restrictions to sell it to the conservatory. But the conservatory can have other bidders. I mean, we have to put it for public sale, but if the conservatory's not interested, then I'm not interested.
okay, but if we opened it up to other bidders,
Mm-hmm.
hypothetically, and let's say somebody comes forward, it's the winning bid, highest bid,
Right.
they're going to abide, obviously, they'd have to by the deed restrictions. Are we selling?
Well, we
Wouldn't
don't
we
have a
have-
choice. I mean, that's the danger that the conservatory has, and they know
Right.
that. And
because
that-
the conservatory can be outbid. And I already was approached by someone who said they'll never see it. And if you have your deed restrictions in there, you're never gonna see it again. Somebody's not gonna buy it to turn around and sell it right back to the county. Because why would you want to do that when the county can only pay what it
Well,
is
sure.
appraised at? So I would just say this, and again, you know, we started with me being somewhat direct, and I'm gonna do it again, because that's
That's all
what
right.
you pay me to do.
You need to be direct with us.
I've been here for almost 13 years. There is a history of shoulda, coulda, woulda. The little house next door is a shoulda, coulda, woulda. And if you let this go, and then you put another building up in between, you shoulda, coulda, woulda made some parking to offset your public defender coming back here with 60-plus people. If it's not in the cards to build on it, then it's prime parking for our patrons, the taxpayers, and our employees. And that's my 2 cents.
Okay.
Would it be
I just-
2 cents? Huh?
I just,
I said, I wish it were only going to be 2 cents.
I just want to make sure we have a common understanding, because when we offer this, please correct me if I'm wrong, if we offer this to the conservatory, we're offering it in general
Yeah.
with the deed restrictions. So if somebody comes along and outbids the conservatory, assuming that the conservatory can even raise the money, are we not bound to sell?
Well, we are, but it's
Legally?
okay because the deed restriction will have you don't tear down the house.
Precisely.
So
Right.
I just don't know. I mean, I think we would have been approached by now if there was somebody else interested in keeping the house who could afford it. I really think so.
I think it would have happened
So
a
would the
long
deed
time ago.
restriction be stating that they're not going to tear down the house, or can they tear down the house as long as they don't exceed 2 stories in height?
No,
Can they
don't tear
build, or
down
are
the
we
house.
saying
The
no?
whole purpose, the whole reason why I even looked at this thing is because they wanted to save the house. The community wanted to save the house.
Okay.
If the house is not going to be saved, then no, everything's off the
And
table.
I'm
It goes to
okay, I just want to make sure we're all on
Yeah.
the same page. Okay, all right.
So
Okay?
Yep.
I'll update you as I get stuff like I did with the last couple emails, and then, you know, kind of back in the radar someplace, a meeting, because Labor Day is really not that far off, believe it or not, so that we can start to go if we have to
Understood.
go. Okay.
Okay. Wow. Okay, Citizen Advisory Committee. Go ahead, Bill. I think you said you wanted to wait on this?
Yeah, what I said was I wanted to get through BOE, which we are through BOE as of whatever o'clock this morning, which is a real big deal. And I wanted to get through the budget before I started to work on this. Just those are 2 of the most important things, or I think they are the 2 most important things we do.
Have you had any inquiries from people?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's not nice people, not pushy, crazy.
Oh, no, I
people.
get it, yeah.
They want to help.
Participate?
Yep,
Okay. So after budget, public hearing?
yep.
Okay. Fire station at the fairgrounds, I followed up with Dave Ferguson. He's waiting to hear from Kootenai County Fire and Rescue attorneys, not heard anything yet, so nothing to report. Okay, U of I Extension, new home. Leslie?
At this point, that's a Sean thing again. You guys had your meeting, and I guess nothing's happened since choosing the 3 buildings.
Last I heard, she's working on the details with the 3 buildings. I told her to have a plan A, B, and C. So she's trying to work out the details with the landlord on the snow plowing and stuff like that, and then she'll approach you.
She being Charlotte?
Charlotte,
Okay.
yes. She'll approach you and ask you to schedule a meeting or put it on status update.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you. Body scanner.
I think a lot of things are happening, but kind of under the radar. And are they bringing that up, KCSO, tomorrow? Okay, so I
So
think,
we have a meeting scheduled tomorrow.
I think we'll get more information from them.
And I guess it's specifically to address the funding issue, is that correct?
Good.
Okay, thank you. Yep, meeting on the 14th, that's tomorrow. Facilities expansion.
Yep, nothing until September, and then the PAC airport lease, nothing until August.
Okay. All right. We have any more items?
That's it.
That's it.
That's it? Oh, okay, nothing on
You
the
have a
airport
public
lease. Okay,
comment?
due in August, okay.
I think Keith has a public comment.
Yes, sir. Step right up, Keith. Public comment.
Yeah, the first thing is on, going back to the liaison, I appreciate the liaison having that because it creates consistency. It does, and it's really good. I just want to let you guys know that
thank
consistency.
you.
And thank you very much for doing what you guys
Yeah,
do with it.
yeah.
The last part was, it kind of popped up while he was sitting there talking. We still technically own that house.
The Romer House?
Yeah, the Romer House?
Yes, we do.
Well, we're struggling to find a canine place to train this Wednesday. Do you
I'm
mind
sorry?
if we to train with our canines this Wednesday?
Okay.
Is it possible to use it? We won't be destroying anything, it's just placing narcotic aids and stuff like that.
We own it.
Just to stay out of the basement,
Yeah, 'cause of the
mold in
mold.
basement. Otherwise, don't break it.
With the understanding that it's probably got asbestos in it,
Oh, yeah.
it's got black mold in it for sure. It probably has lead.
Just to see what we're going
It
through,
has
yeah.
certainly radon.
Right.
What
And,
about uranium? We got any of that?
and the building, well, those are four things that are almost facts. And the other thing is, it's a feeble building.
Yes, sir.
So you know,
That's what the buildings we kind of we train a lot in those type buildings, because that's where our customer clientele tend to hide. So, so we constantly have to expose them to kind of like odors in ourselves.
So now, when you train the dogs in there, are they basically going room by room and
Yeah,
running the routine?
running a routine. Actually, well, sometimes we'll do some things outside to, start working your way to inside. We try to use the property as much as possible to try to create things that officers and deputies have come across. As they're coming up, like, we'll put something right outside the window to see if the officer picks up on his dog picking something up. Because usually you knock on the door, what they do is throw it right outside the window. So as you're approaching the building, you want to make sure your dog's adhering to the odor, not to what the handler's
if you
doing.
take the tape down, put the tape back up.
Yep.
How many dogs? In the
Depends.
training?
Sometimes we can fluctuate between 8 to 20.
Whoa!
Yeah. Minimum usually is 8 to 10. And then if we get all the northern Idaho dogs and sometimes the eastern Washington dogs coming over.
Oh, okay, so you have
So-
other jurisdictions?
Yeah, we have
participating.
other
Okay.
jurisdictions and stuff. Because we're pretty good, a pretty good training group. And then sometimes you'll get Fairchild Air Force Base coming over. So, because we're going there next week to train on their SEER buildings. Because they're not having a SEER class right now. So they've set us all up to get killed and everything else, stuff like that.
Oh, how nice.
Cool.
Wednesday, because if it is, I'm gonna be sitting down there at lunchtime watching.
Yeah. It'll be entertaining to watch the handlers with their dogs. So if that was possible, that would be greatly awesome. If we could do that, because we're just trying to figure out what we're gonna do this Wednesday.
John, you're okay?
I think it's fine, just, you have to get ahold of Greg to
Yeah.
get a key.
Yeah, I'll
Like
do
I
that.
said, Stay out of the basement.
We will.
That's probably the worst area.
We will.
Okay, cool.
Thank you for your
Yes,
time.
Dina, please.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Keith.
Good idea.
Considering that, there could be toxic mold,
There's none, they're all county employees. So they have their own medical and everything else. And all the buildings we go into, we got waivers and everything, we couldn't do that.
okay,
Yeah.
so people from Washington aren't gonna sue us if they
No,
get sick?
no, because they would have to take care of their own. It's within training, peer review, and work style and everything else.
And my understanding, they're not going to be in there more than a half an hour ever
If
at a
even that,
time.
no,
Yeah,
no.
it's a lot less than that.
For the lawyer's benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
understand that, but when we train over in Spokane and stuff like that, we go into some of the old factories and stuff like that. It's just, we're covering under workman's comp and things like that, because we couldn't come up with an MOU for everything that we do with them.
Fair enough.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Keith. Anyone else? 11:45, meeting adjourned. Thank you.